Hello, and welcome to What to Say When You're Put on the Spot at Work. I'm going to give it another minute in case anyone else joins, but I'll also say this up front so you're not wondering. These practice clinics are designed to go ahead whether there are lots of people in the room or just a few. Tonight will still run, and I'll record it so that everyone who registered can access the replay. If you're here live, you're welcome to listen in or to participate, whatever feels right. There's no expectation either way. I'll get started now. This practice clinic is about a very common workplace experience, being put on the spot. No dramatic confrontation, not a high-stakes crisis, just a moment when something is asked, assumed, or implied, and you're expected to respond immediately. These moments happen in meetings, in passing conversations, and often in situations where there hasn't been time to think things through properly. When people struggle with these moments, they often tell themselves it's because they're not confident enough or they're not quick enough. In reality, it's usually neither of these things. More often, it's because the moment is moving faster than they're thinking. What being put on the spot usually looks like. When people describe being put on the spot at work, it tends to fall into one of three patterns. The first is a question you weren't expecting. You're asked for an opinion, agreement, or judgment without notice. The second is an assumption that lands without discussion. Something is phrased as though it's already agreed, and silence feels like consent. The third is a moment of visibility you didn't plan for. You're asked to explain, respond, or represent something without any warning. In all three cases, the issue isn't that you didn't know what to say. It's that you're being asked to compress thinking, judgment, and communication into a single instant. One useful thing to name up front is this. You're allowed to slow the moment down, even if the room feels fast. Many people assume that confidence looks like answering immediately. In practice, credibility often comes from how you manage the pause. A calm pause doesn't signal uncertainty. It signals judgment. I'm going to walk through 3 simple response moves you can use in these moments. They're not scripts to memorize. They're patterns you can adapt to your own words and your own role. So the first move is name what you need. Before you respond, that might sound like, I want to take a moment to think about that. Let me make sure I've understood what you're asking. I don't want to answer that quickly. These statements buy you time and set the tone for the conversation. Notice that none of them apologize. You're not asking permission to think. You're simply managing the moment. The second move is to separate thinking from agreeing. A lot of on-the-spot pressure comes from the assumption that responding means committing. It doesn't. You might say, I can see the logic in that. I'll need some time to think it through. I understand what's being proposed, but I'm not ready to agree yet. That's helpful context. I'll come back to you once I've had a chance to consider it. This allows you to stay engaged without accidentally saying yes to something you haven't thought through. The third move is to redirect the moment. so that it lands somewhere more workable. That might sound like, "This feels like something that needs a proper conversation. Can we come back to it?" I'd rather respond after I've looked at the detail. "Can we park this and pick it up once I've had time to think?" Redirecting isn't avoidance. It's choosing the right place and the right time for a decision. In practice, these moves often come together in a single response. For example, "I want a moment to think about that. I can see the intent, but I'm not ready to agree yet. Let's come back to it once I've had time to look at the detail." The response is calm, professional, and clear. It doesn't escalate the situation, and it doesn't leave things ambiguous. If you take one thing from this clinic, let it be this: being put on the spot is not a personal failing. It's a predictable feature of fast-moving workplaces. The skill isn't having the perfect answer. The skill is knowing how to manage the moment so you don't undermine yourself. If you're watching this on the replay, you might think about one recent moment where you felt put on the spot and consider which of these moves would have helped. Thank you for registering for this practice clinic.